People can become frustrated with schizoids when we don't respond in the way people expect us to. We don't respond in the time frame that people expect us to, or we don't respond at all. In this video, I'm going to talk about some of the reasons why this happens. From the outside, it might seem that we are not interested, or we're being rude, or we just don't care. But really, it's a lot more to do with how we're wired. So for schizoids, the way that we're wired is to hold things inside, and we're more wired to retain information than to output information. The information that we output is going to depend upon what sort of information it is. So when it comes to things like basic facts, like where is such and such, or how do you do such and such, if we know it, that sort of information isn't difficult to just say outright. But where the response delay comes from is when we need to respond in the moment in a way that requires more personal thought or personal emotions. How this plays out is that we might be asked a question, and in the moment there just isn't anything there, but later on we might formulate the answer, and I'll explain a little bit later why this is. It could also play out that someone sends us a message and we might take a few days to reply. There are other ways that it can play out as well, but those are two basic examples. Part of the reason for this delay, as well as being wired to keep information inside, is that we're not really wired for spontaneity. So what this means is that if something emerges suddenly in the moment and we have to respond to it in a personal way, or we have to create a response or generate a response immediately, this isn't necessarily going to be forthcoming because of how we're wired. Part of the reason for this is because we tend to be quite deep thinkers and very considered thinkers, and we like to be precise in what we're saying. So we can spend a lot of time formulating a specific thought or specific idea or specific concept, and really fleshing out an idea, really adding a lot of detail to it so that we get that concept just right and just how we think it's supposed to be. Also, because of the fact that a lot of us don't have immediate emotional connection, so our emotions may be muted or just really difficult to access, and when they are accessed, they could be difficult to read, dissect, or understand. A lot of spontaneity and a lot of immediate personal response comes from emotion. So when the emotion is not there, that can add to the delay in responding to things. So for example, if we got an email or message and it requires us to take action very quickly, that's not something that's going to really go down well with us, because number one, taking action is something that it requires evaluation. So making quick decisions on a personal level, unless it's already been thought out in the past, so if it's been thought out in the past, then it can come quickly. But certain decisions are just not going to be able to be made just like that. I think that there's because of the processing that we need to engage in mentally, and a lot of it is deep and internal. There's a need to really be sure about what we're saying and doing, and quite deliberate in our actions. And that's where like the calculated processing comes in. Not calculative in a bad way, but things have to make sense, things have to add up, and it's got to be like for the right reasons. There could be some times when we can throw caution to the wind, and it might feel safe to just go along with something at the time. Especially, it could depend on the person who might be initiating contact from us, how we feel about them, and whether we trust that person and how much we like that person. We could be more easily moved in certain situations. And as I said, depending on our views and opinions from the past, I found like sometimes when there's this delay, it can be kind of frustrating because someone can ask me something and I might just give a superficial, basic response that doesn't reflect the full depth of my mind, because I haven't been able to formulate yet what exactly it is I want to say. And then later on I could like go away, sit down, think, and then it will just all come to me in my mind, exactly maybe what I sort of should have said, could have said, and exactly how I do think about the particular thing that I wasn't able to respond to. For some of us, we don't feel emotions immediately in the moment in response to things, but when we go away, when we spend time on our own, we can get, the emotional response can be delayed, so it comes back to us later on. And we can process our emotions outside of the moment, but not necessarily in the moment. So it could be said that when it comes to personal thoughts, feelings, and emotions, that they're not strongly tied to the moment. They're much more tied to the inner world, tied to inner processing, and also because there is a sense of sometimes importance over what we do and a deep consideration, then it's really a process of letting thoughts circulate in our mind, and then when they line up, then we're able to express them. This could be seen as a pacing issue, that we have to do things at our own pace. Everybody's got a different time for doing things, but because we're primarily internally governed, our timing is important to us. So when the time is right, the response will come. As I said before, this isn't always going to tally up with what other people want or expect. I think that when we're in a role, like a job role or a well-defined role that we have to carry out each day, it could be being, I don't know, a parent or anything that comes with sort of a list of things that we know we have to do. That list can be memorized and played out. So it can seem like we're being quite spontaneous, but if you put us on the spot in certain situations, it's not really going to be there. Also, there's a thing about desire, motivation. Like sometimes we just might not want to respond because it wasn't part of what we decided. We're strong on autonomy, and so it's important for us to do things as we deem right, as we deem correct, as we deem important. That is another aspect of it. I would say that I've seen in like comments and stuff that a lot of us, and I've done this myself, like we will write a comment and then go back and edit it. And I think this is partly because of that delayed effect, how you can say something and then you think about other things that you want to add to it, or maybe you didn't write that quite as precisely as you see it inside your own mind. So we can see things very precisely in our minds, And the process of translating that out into the external world isn't really necessarily easy because of the depth of thinking or sometimes the complexity of the ideas we have. Really, I just wanted to talk about the different reasons for our delayed responses, and I hope that you guys find this interesting or you can relate to it. And yeah, I'm going to be back soon with some more content.